Hello everyone, this is Laurie of Laurie's Little Studio. Today we're going to be working on the petticoat to this Folkwear pattern number 203. So let's just get right into it. I have everything I need except for thread, but I don't think today I'll be sewing. I think I'm going to be working with the fabric and getting these pattern pieces cut out. So I don't have to worry about that. But I do remember walking by a box that has not been unpacked down in the garage that said glass jars and thread. Okay, that's where I'm going to start anyway. Side dust ruffle, which is this right here. It goes around the bottom and it's basically just your little ruffly edge. The dust ruffle, I think, is underneath the fancy band. That's what I'm calling this. So it kind of holds it out away from the bottom of the petticoat. And also, I was going to point out that they have the laces and the stitches that you need to complete the big ruffle or the fancy band. Now you probably have noticed that I've been cutting out the entire size range from size small, extra small, all the way up to 3 extra large. And that's because I just want to cut them all out and then I'm going to trim them down. I figured out why I need 2 pattern pieces for the placket. On the back of the petticoat, you will be stitching one to one side of the seam where it opens up, and then one to the other side of the seam where it opens up. All right, let's go over these pieces real quick. There's some more extra. Okay, so we have our front dust ruffle, which is just the little, gotta bring you down where you can see what I'm talking about. Right there where you can kind of tell that it's underneath the fancy band, or flounce as they call it. And then we have the back flounce and the back dust ruffle. 2 of the placket pieces, the petticoat side panel, the side dust ruffle, and then the petticoat back, which I will need 2 of, and the petticoat front, which I will need 1 of. I have a twin needle for fancy sewing. I have a wing needle for fancy sewing, and then I also have Microtex regular stitching, and those are 80/12. So that definitely needs to be switched out on my sewing machine. Well, I found my thread in the box that said jars and thread, and I will definitely have to rethread my machine. Okay, so I will be working on the flounce. I keep calling it a fancy band. Basically, the terms are a little interchangeable because fancy band is at the bottom of a dress, and it's where all of the fancy stitches used to go. They still go there. Why do I say used to? I don't know. The petticoat basically is there to provide modesty as well as push the top layer or the skirt of the dress or whatever it is that you're wearing out a little bit. So it is the flounce, and this is it right here. So the first step here is creating the tucks. Let's get down where we can see what we're talking about. So the piece is J, which is this one right here. So these are those tucks. And you can mark them however you wish to do that. You can leave them off, you can make 2 or 3, or you can do all 5 tucks. Those can be made using a twin needle if you wish to use a twin needle. So basically what we're going to do is we cut one of these front flounce pieces on the fold right here. We cut 2 of the back flounce pieces, piece K, and we stitch them all together, and then we do all of the stitches, such as the tucks and the lace and whatever other kind of stitches we want to do. All right, and keep in mind, if you're doing this pattern, this is a suggestion. You can do anything. You don't have to do these tucks. You can do all of it as lace insertion. You can do all of it as very fancy embroidery stitches, and you don't have to do anything, basically. It will, if you don't do anything, then this will, not doing these stitches will cause this to be longer. You can just take that up in the hem, however you want to do it. I've got these 2 pattern pieces pressed, and next I will make some space and then cut out from this fabric what I need. All right, so what I did, we've got this short piece that's the front right here. It's on top of 2 for the back, and as you can see, the back is wider, and that's because I tore this longer fabric, and what I want to do is just square it up with this shorter piece of fabric and my scissors. I'm going to take the top part of the shorter end and fold it over and sort of line it up over here on this end, and then I can just use this edge. I'm going to use Faultless Heavy Finish ironing spray starch on the pieces of fabric that I'm ironing right now. This is my favorite of this particular brand. I do have other favorite brands, but this brand and this finish, perfect. The reason I'm doing it is because I'm going to be doing some fancy needlework, and I want some extra stiffness and body in the fabric. And this fabric is very, I don't know if you can tell, but it's very lightweight, it's very sheer, and even though it's a cotton, it just needs this extra little help for when you're doing your needlework. The other thing I want to mention is if you wrote anything with air erase ink on your fabric and then hit it with this, it will disappear. And you might not want that to happen. So I just wanted to warn you about that, and I will be back in a minute. The reason I wrote K is because it's piece K. Just simpler. Alright, I've got another one to iron, but I'm going to go ahead and get these put together. Flat side goes towards the back. Now what I'm going to do is stitch this. I cut these out at large, so I have a little bit of wiggle room, and I'm going to stitch a 5/8 inch seam allowance and trim it down to 1/4 inch. Pinking shears. All right. And right there. Okie dokie. That's the edge, and it will not fray. I need to make sure that I press this so that it's going in one direction. So it looks like it wants to go that way, and I'll just press this over and then attach the other one. And I want to make sure before I clip this seam that I got it right. So it's like this with the seam on the inside. All right, so here's this seam facing the right direction, and here's this seam facing the right direction. Now I would suggest that you stand up. You may not need to, but I find that standing up and manipulating this much fabric is so much easier than sitting down. All right, I am going to pin this one because I do not want it to shift. Now I need to make sure that this seam is on the correct side. The other two seams have completely disappeared. And go press this seam open. So the next thing that you can do to help yourself is decide which one of these is the top and which one is the bottom, and then properly place a pattern piece. So get this laid out, and then you can decide where you want to put your tucks. This is what we'll be working on right here. It won't look like this, just so you know. All right, I will see you then. Well, it's been a couple days. We had our called for cold snap, and I don't know if you can hear static as I remove my jacket, but oh, it's cold. But now I'm back, and I ordered this lace also in the random what do you do when it's freezing cold outside and you can't get warm phase. And it was on Amazon. I have not opened this, so I don't know if it's truly a cotton. It doesn't say anywhere on the packaging if it's cotton, none of these letters. But I just thought, you know, it's so pretty. So maybe I can tell by the way it feels. It is cotton. I don't remember how much this cost. So my plan was to add it to the dust ruffle. The first thing I'm going to do is lay this out with this pattern on the top so that I can get my Okay, this is what a twin needle looks like right here. It is one shank and two needles. And both needles have an eye. And you put it in your machine exactly the same way you would put another, just one single needle in there. And then you put two sources of thread either off to the side, just on a stand, or like I've done here. And then I am going to thread this first. Okay, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but this configuration here matches the needles here. So this thread is on the outside needle. Okay, and then this one, you just thread it up exactly the same. But it goes on the inside needle, the one on the right. The birds are having an absolute battle on the roof of our house. And then you thread up or bring up your bobbin thread. So you have 3 pieces of thread coming up out of the machine and then going to the back. And I'm going to just do a quick test right here. Use the straight stitch. And it is a raised up ridge. This is the front. And this is the back. Well, I found my lace. It took a whole day, so all of 24 hours have passed. So I have these two that are enough lace that I can use that. This one right here is enough, but I don't think it's big enough. So I ordered 2 more bits of lace. I ordered another 5 yards of this. It takes 7 yards to go all the way around the bottom edge of the petticoat. So this is not quite enough. And then I also ordered another 7. Oh no, I take that back. I ordered another bit of lace that is similar to this. I'll have leftovers. But I did want to let you know that that's where we stand on this, the flounce. French seams are recommended for the petticoat. If you are using this finish, the phrase right or wrong sides together in the instructions will refer to the final seam line. Okay? So I've got all of that. Right sides together, stitch petticoat front C to side panel D, matching the notches, which are right there. So then you would press those seams open or toward the sides if using a French seam. Stitch the back E pieces to right sides together at center back from the square to the bottom of the petticoat, matching triple notches, which are right there. Okay. And then pin the wider section of the placket F to the left-hand side of the petticoat back above the square, which that will become obvious when I cut out the pieces. And then with the right side of the placket to the wrong side of the back, matching notches 3 and square. Stitch from waist to square using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and back stitching a little at the square. All right, so that's a mark on the pattern piece. I know lots and lots of you are aware of these markings, but I do tend to go over them. So right here is that square. Clip seam allowance of petticoat center back seam to the square, pin and stitch narrower section of the placket to the right hand side. This is kind of a little bit better view of what we're talking about here. Turn narrower the right hand section of the placket to the right side of the back on seam line, pin and top stitch in place from the waist to the small dot. So from here to here at the fold line, back stitching a little at the fold line. Okay, so you're going to go stitch, 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 and then back stitch. Fold remaining wider section of the placket wrong sides together on the lengthwise center fold line, pin turned under edge over that seam line. Top stitch from waist to star. I don't know where the star is. There is a casing, so you'll create, that's basically what the waistband is. You'll create the casing and insert your twill. It says ribbon. I'm using twill, and I think I know where it is. It's behind me. So on petticoats of this era, all gathers were concentrated in the back. Flatten out the front of the petticoat, making sure the ends of the drawstring are even, and stitch through the casing and the drawstring at front side seams. You can do that, or you can just leave it loose, and then you can tie it however you want to. Well, one day later, and this lace arrived. So let's open it. Now it's not white, clearly, but I think it'll still look pretty. And I plan to leave it uncut. Oh, it has strings to gather, I believe. No. Yeah, okay. So basically I'll just be doing a zigzag into each side right here and right here. Okay, number 2 on my machine. Okay, so I'm coming up to the very end where I started right here. So there'll be an overlap, and I'll fold that under so it won't ravel. But I'm not going to do that until I stitch it down. I mean, I'm going to stitch about to here, and then I'll cut it and fold it under and stitch. And then I have to go back and stitch the other side. Okay, there we go. And I will just stitch all the way around, and when I come back it'll be done, and we'll cut this fabric away from behind the lace. These scissors are called duckbill scissors. These particular pair was made by Ginger. Pull it over and zigzag again. I'm going to go ahead and do this stitch on the petticoat, and if I run out of thread, then I'll just have to fix it.